Okay, so continuing on with the Algebra EOC assessment review. This is from 2024. There'll be many questions like this, but none of them exactly like this. All right, so let's get into 6 through 10. All right, so here I am adding these two polynomials together. Specifically, these are binomials. Right, so if I'm going to add these together, I have to add this plus that. Right, so what is the sum? Sum is adding that to that. Right, so it's going to be 2x cubed plus 4x plus 3x cubed plus 5x. Right, this plus is this is a plus 1. So I'm only going to really, to clear these parentheses here, all I have to do is just drop them. I don't have to distribute the positive because they're already positive. All right, so it's going to be 2x cubed plus 4x, and then is it going to be 3x cubed plus 5x. Okay, now I combine like terms. So what are my like terms? I have x cubes. All right, let's combine those. 2 plus 3, x cubed is 5x cubed. And now let's combine the 4x and the 5x. Those combine, 4 plus 5 is 9x, so it's going to be plus 9x. So my answer is 5x cubed plus 9x. There's that one, pretty straightforward, combining like terms. Little variation to this is, I think you could say the difference of, if this was the difference of these things, that's subtracting. And then you'd have, this would be a negative sign, then you'd have to flip the signs inside the parentheses in order to clear the parentheses. Right? So here's a system of equations shown. It says which one of these is the solution set to this. Okay, so how do I approach this? Right? This is in slope-intercept form, and this is in standard form. So when you have one in slope-intercept form and one in standard form, it's pretty easy to substitute. Right? So everywhere I see a y, I'm going to put that in this equation. Right? So it's going to be, there's no y's in this, so it's going to be 2x plus 5, and instead of writing y, I'm going to write down 2x plus 2 equals 19. So now I got rid of my y, and now all I have is x's. So I can distribute this 5 to clear the parentheses, this positive 5 to clear the parentheses, so nothing happens with the 2x. The 5 times 2x is 10x. The 5 times 2 is plus 10 equals negative 19. All right, so now let's do variables left, constants right. All right, so if my variables are already on the left, it's going to be 2x plus 10x. Let's move this over here. It's going to make it negative. It's positive on this side, so it's going to be minus 10. Right, so that's no longer there. So 19 minus 10 equals negative 29. Right, I'm going to add these two together. I get 12x equals negative 29. Right, so solving for x, I get x equals negative 29 twelfths. What is negative 29 twelfths? Wrong. I see where I made my mistake. I had a transcription error right here. This is not negative, this is positive. Right, so now this makes this 19 minus 10, which is now 9. And now let's erase all this stuff. So 9 divided by 12, so equals 9. So 9 divided by 12 is, let's reduce this, divide everything, it's going to be 3/4. Right, so x is 3/4. So which one of these has an x value of 3/4? This one does, that one does not, that one does not, that one does not. So lo and behold, I have this one. Now say I had two answers that had 3/4 in it. I'd have to follow this all the way through to the end. I'd have to solve for y now using this x value. All right, so say I have y equals, let's take this 3/4 and plop it in to the x value from this equation. All right, so 2 times 3/4 plus 2. This is 6/4 plus 2, also known as 3/2 plus 2. So this is 1 1/2 plus 2, which is 3 1/2. So there is the other one right there. Now you can do all that with a calculator. You don't have to do it in your mind. But that is just an abbreviated way of how to do all this stuff. Okay? Sorry about my transcription error there. Watch for those transcription errors. Make sure you write down the next line below in the correct order. Okay? What is the equivalent value of the square root of 3? Okay, so remember that you have this radical, right, where this is the base, this is the index, right, and then you have the radicand or the exponent here or here. It doesn't matter. They are equivalent, right? Remember also that the base is right here. This is the bottom is the index, right? So this is the denominator, right? And this is the numerator, or that is the numerator. They came out to be the same, right? So in the square root of 3, remember that this, if it's not shown, the index is 2, right? And this is 1, right? So this equals 3 to the numerator divided by the denominator, 3 to the 1/2, which is right here. Okay, and you could easily go through with your calculator and put square root of 3 in and kind of take a screenshot in your mind of what that is or round it, and then put each one of these in your calculator and it would spit out the same answer. So that's number 8. Okay, so here is a scatter plot of some stuff, right? Where this is the years since 2000, right? So this is year 2000, and then it goes on through there. Okay, what statement correctly interprets the scatter plot? All right, so is it a positive or negative correlation, right? So the correlation, right, if it's positive, it's going to have a slope that is positive. If it's negative, it's going to have a slope that is negative, right? Or as x approaches infinity, for a positive correlation, as x approaches infinity, y approaches infinity. Okay, and for a negative correlation, as x approaches infinity, y would approach or go down, approach negative infinity. Okay, but this is a positive correlation, right? So positive correlation, because as I read x left to right, my y value goes up. So I'm going to get rid of all the negatives. So that's negative and that's negative. Okay, so it's either strong positive or weak positive. Okay, so now you have to look at the distance, the average distance between all of these points and the line, right? So these distances are pretty small, right? So that's a strong positive correlation. If I had a bunch of like points over here and the distances were kind of like far away, and you'd have a large standard deviation of this, or the correlation coefficient, right? It would be weak. Remember, so when the correlation coefficient is equal to 1, it's like the best case scenario. The farther away it is away from 1, or negative 1, if it's a negative correlation, the worse it is. The weaker the correlation is. Okay, so here let's solve for this. Right, variables left, constants right. All right, so I need to move this over here. All right, so this is going to be 222 plus 21. Right, so 222 plus 21 is going to be 243. Okay, equals 3x squared, or you could say 3x squared equals 243. Now I'm going to divide everything by 3. And so I'm trying to divide both sides by the coefficient of my variable term. So that's 3, that's 3, that makes that x squared. 243 divided by 3 is 81. So now I have to take the square root of both sides in order to solve this. So it's asking for the square root of 81. So this is going to be, it's asking for one exact solution, right? So let's take the square root of both sides. Right, so this is going to be x equals the square root of 81. Right, so the square root of 81. One exact solution. Right, if you were to take this down to 2 solutions, just the square root of 81 is 9, because 9 times 9 is 81, but it's also x equals plus 9 and x equals minus 9. This is two solutions, right? One exact solution is the square root of 81. So there is that. And thinking about this further, what is one exact solution? So you could probably reduce this to negative 81 or positive 81 if it doesn't allow you to put the square root in here, which does. Sorry, not 81, 9. 9. Right, so one exact solution. So if you would put in 9 or negative 9, you'd be right. If you put the square root of 81, that's one solution. So I'm not sure how they would answer this question. I would put in 9. I would put in 9 and see if that was the correct answer, because it's one exact solution. So the square root of 81 is 9. Right, so, but it's also negative 9 too, because negative 9 times negative 9 is 81. All right, so that is all of them. Like technically, I guess that's two solutions. So yeah, 9, that's one solution. All right, so anyway, I hope that helps. That is 1 through 10. We'll cover the next 5 on the subsequent videos.